Give and Grow Rich by Omer Redden. Most of us want to be rich. We just aren't sure how to get there. Do we fake it till we make it? Do we work smarter, not harder? Do we quit our day job and pursue our dream? What if the answer to becoming rich doesn't lie in the answers to any of these questions, but instead lies in our ability to change our mindset and imitate the greats? So to write this book, I interviewed 7 guys from 7 different income brackets, ranging from $20,000 per year to $1 million per year. Chapter 1, how do we go about this? The approach. One of my favorite authors was talking about how to write a masterpiece and describing how to do it. He wrote this: start at the bottom with the one fact a reader must know before he can learn any more. So here's the one fact upon which the masterpiece will be built. He had nothing to start with except the capacity to know what he wanted and the determination to stand by that desire until he realized it. Napoleon Hill. I've written this book for 5 reasons. One, to illustrate that truth from Napoleon Hill. 2, to show the trends between a poor man and a rich man. 3, to motivate with examples of billionaires. 4, to encourage contentment regardless of your income. 5, to point to Jesus. This book is about finances, and this book is about people. Money is nothing until it is in the hands of people. By the end of this book, you'll have the power, you'll have the answer. You will have a better understanding of how to manage your money, how to make money, and how to give money. You will have a healthier outlook on money. And it is my belief you apply the lessons of this book, you will not only be able to achieve the wealth of a millionaire, you will be able to achieve the contentment of one too. Let me assure you, such contentment does not come from the money, but from the way it is handled, the way it is given, the way it is gifted. Chapter 2, the mindset of a poor man. Poor men have one thing in common. They all think the same. A poor man thinks he never has enough money. A poor man thinks the world is against him. A poor man thinks everyone owes him something. This poor man could make $10,000 per year, 100,000, or $1 million per year. The point isn't how much he makes. The point is how he thinks. The poor man can't enjoy his life. He may enjoy it outwardly, but he can't enjoy it inwardly. He can't enjoy it for this one simple reason: he never has enough. At one time, believe it or not, I made $15 per hour, was single, didn't have any expenses other than gas, and yet I was a poor man. I was poor because I didn't have enough. Sadly, I still work with many poor men. I work with men who think that everyone owes them something. They come to work, do their 8-hour duty, and go home. They don't try to grow themselves. They don't try to learn anything new. They don't try to improve their lot, yet they think the company should pay them more money. Please don't misunderstand me. Most of these men show up to their jobs every day, and most of these men do their jobs very well. If they didn't show up or they did a crappy job, they wouldn't have jobs anymore. Then they would be beggars instead of poor men. But here's what I'm getting at. A company can always find another reliable employee. A company cannot always find people who are willing to grow and learn and improve. See, poor men operate with a sense of entitlement. They do this, so they are entitled to that. They work this hard, so they're entitled to that wage. That's what the poor man thinks, but entitlement doesn't get you very far in this world. I was a poor man once. I told you I made $15 per hour, was single, and only had to pay for gas, but I was still poor. I didn't spend it on cigarettes or beer. I didn't frequent vending machines or gamble, but you can be assured I was poor. And I was poor because I thought only of myself. I thought only of what I needed. I did not give. Typically, a poor man has one of 3 views on retirement. First, there is the poor man who thinks he will never be able to retire. Second, there is the poor man who thinks he will retire at exactly 62 or 65, whatever the age is that Social Security checks start being cut. Third, there is the poor man who has actually saved for retirement, is invested in a 401k or mutual funds and stocks. He will still refuse to give, and he will spend all of the money on himself, and by golly, there will never be enough. If by chance the poor man does have enough sense about him to teach his kids about money, it will usually be in one of 2 ways. He will tell the kids to bust their butts in school and go to college so that they can get a good job, or he will tell them he will pay for everything until they get their own job. If you hand your kids everything, or if you counsel them to go into debt to get an education, chances are the kids will end up poor, both in mindset and income. In the meantime, while parents are still raising their kids, please understand this. If you have a kid over 18 and still living at home, that kid should be paying his or her way. That kid is an adult. You, as the parent, should charge him a small rent, make him buy some groceries, make him pay for his car insurance, cell phone, and all the rest. The reason for doing this isn't to be harsh, nor is it done so you can support your lazy ass, but you do it so he or she can learn fiscal responsibility. Even if you make $1 million per year, you should do this. The practice of budgeting to pay bills, even while they live at home, will teach them the responsibility they'll need when they get out on their own. You do them a disservice when you coddle them. And the poor man's state is a sick, sorry, and sad state. He never has enough. He operates with a sense of entitlement. He cannot give. He thinks only of himself. Chapter 3, the mindset of a middleman. Of those 7 men I interviewed for this book, 5 started out as poor men. Only 2 started in families that were wealthy financially as well as in their mindsets. Of the 5 that started poor, 3 have become wealthy men, 2 have remained poor. Of course, you don't want to know how the poor men continue to be poor. You already know that from the previous chapter. They continued their mindset of scarcity, of never having enough. They continued to act entitled and selfishly while abstaining from giving and not saving consistently. It's quite simple. But the poor men who became wealthy, those are the ones we want to know about. Those are the ones we want to imitate. Let's look at the 3 of them, and just FYI, their faith shapes their mindset in a big way. Porthos started out on the farm. He learned the value of hard work, the value of a dollar, the value of investing your talents. Again, Porthos is a very gifted man. He was an athlete in his day. He's a natural salesman, and he had a way with the ladies. Most of his teenage years was spent in futility, but after coming out of college, he knew who he wanted to marry, and he knew he had to become a man. I couldn't tell you just what he makes, but let's just say his business does well and his large family is living comfortably. There are no worries about finances in his family. He gives nearly 20%, and he says if he ever starts feeling that his business is wavering, he will give even more. When I interviewed Porthos, he said 2 things that really stood out to me. Money isn't the obstacle, faith is the obstacle. Where are you putting your trust? Get that right, and the rest will follow. I was somewhat surprised that this man, who most would see as a self-made man, is absolutely convinced that none of his success comes from his own efforts. He is convinced every dime that has come his way, and there have been a lot of dimes, has come from the universe or God or the Lord. He's saying that if you will surrender your desire for control and trust the universe with it instead, you will get what you want. Interesting. Before we left our conversation, I asked him 2 questions. First, I asked him of his plans for retirement. He said, I plan to keep trusting. Rich people don't pay interest. Athos started out as the son of missionaries. When they weren't missionaries, his dad was a teacher and his mom was a nurse. Neither of his parents understood money very well, and because they didn't understand it, they had nothing to teach their son. When I asked him if he would change anything about his past, Athos said he would avoid debt like the plague. Of all the nice things he had purchased right out of college, he said this: not only is it true you don't deserve it, but you don't need it. It took many years, but Athos finally worked himself out of the poor mindset. He learned to add value to other people. Delayed gratification is crucial to financial success. Delayed gratification means that when you want something, you don't put it on a credit card or take out a loan to buy it. It also means that when you think you really, really want that new item, you can probably find a gently used or clearance version of that new item somewhere else. Summary of the middleman's estate. These musketeers have a few traits in common. They set their mind to a trade or task and stuck to it. If they switched jobs or careers, they took all the lessons they learned from the previous experience and applied them at the new line of work. In short, they have continued to be lifelong learners. All 3 of these men are also men of faith. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to develop a rich mindset, but I am saying your beliefs will drive your actions. Your beliefs will drive your views on giving. Chapter 4, the mindset of a rich man. What I just told you in detail is what any rich man will tell you shortly. A rich man labors hard with his mind. A poor man labors hard with his back and hands. As they improve themselves, they move from manual labor to specialized labor to mental labor. Where the poor man feels a sense of entitlement, the rich man says, no dollar is given, it is only earned. Every rich man I know, and I do mean every rich man I know, is a generous man. He's either generous with his money, generous with his time, or generous with the wages he gives to others. Rich men value their freedom, they value their flexibility, and they value utilizing their time in quality ways. Most of them don't watch TV habitually. Most of them are active in service to their families, to their temples or churches, and to their communities. Another way to say it, rich men enjoy giving to others. As I was beginning to say in the previous session, rich men value giving. They are habitual givers. In fact, some of them are giving addicts. They are so used to giving it's become a lifestyle, a regular part of life, a part of their being. Some rich men would give their very lives if they could. Why? Because they know that with every dollar comes a responsibility. One rich man had committed to give a certain amount last year, and sure enough, the year grew busy, expenses piled up, and he had all the excuses in the world to not give that amount. But you know what the rich man did? He said, I committed to giving this money. I'm going to make it happen. He drew money out of his 401ks just so he could make good on his commitment to giving. Who does that? Another rich man said, whenever his business starts to take a step backward, he heads to the bank, takes money out, and starts giving it. Are you that committed to giving? Rich men are. Summary of the rich man's estate. 1, money burns a hole in the poor man's pocket while rich men have discipline and self-control. 2, poor men think like children, holding tight to money and screaming mine, while rich men hold money with open hands and gently say, here, perhaps this can help you. 3, poor men think their key to getting rich is making more money, while rich men know the key to getting rich is taking care of others, giving faithfully, and being a good steward of what you've been given. Rich men know what they want and stay by that desire until they realize it. They manage their money with rules and principles. They invest in something, and they seek to live stress-free and drama-free. They live well below their means. They don't have habits that make them lose money. They always want to improve themselves, which typically leads to more financial success. I think that is why people with a rich mindset get richer. They always want to improve themselves. Chapter 5, the mindset of a billionaire. 1, billionaires were in the right industry at the right time. That is, they were just behind all the inventors and beta tests, and they were just before the general public had access. In fact, they typically were the ones who gave it to the general public. 2, billionaires are typically madmen. By that, I don't mean they're crazy. Well, Steve Jobs may have been, but what I mean is that billionaires pursued their passion and project like crazy. They were of a single mind. Billionaires hit their million and keep on going. They keep growing and pursuing and learning because the money isn't the drive, the passion or project is the drive. 3, the final factor is something I call the sovereign plan. Billionaires typically come into the industry at the right time, or with just the right personality and dedication, or with just the right team of friends and family around them. Andrew Carnegie, the older he grew, the more he understood the pride of other men and how to work that pride in his favor. Carnegie made it his goal to die penniless. In other words, he worked hard to amass his wealth, but he worked doubly hard to give it away. His family wouldn't manage it. He wouldn't let the public squander it. Instead, he would personally administer it to the right organizations and the right causes. By the time he died, Carnegie had given away over $350 million. The greatest accomplishment of most billionaires is not how they earn their money, but how they give it. But even if we don't accumulate billions like they did, I think we can imitate them in other ways. We can work hard like they worked hard. We can position ourselves so that when we have an opportunity arises, we can take advantage of it just like they did. Chapter 6, the theology of riches and balance. What I mean is that everything you do is a result of what you believe. Beliefs drive action. Men who make $25,000 can do great good in the world, but men who make $250,000 or $2.5 million can do even more good in the world. It isn't about how much you make or how much you have. It is about what you do with what you make, what you do with what you have. Chapter 7, the crux of the matter, take action now. I wrote this so that you can live a more healthy, more balanced, more rich and full life, both financially and otherwise. I wrote this so you can give and grow rich. In order to achieve that financially full and rich life, in order to achieve that balanced and healthy life, you will have to do a few things. Namely, you will have to take 6 specific, tangible, consistent action. Here are the 6 areas in which you need to take action. 1, change your mindset. 2, start budgeting consistently. 3, give consistently. 4, save, invest consistently. 5, get out of debt. 6, pay it forward. The first thing you must do if you want to live a rich life, a balanced life, a healthy life, is we must start thinking differently. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results. Insanity is also thinking the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Let's get out of the poor mindset and into the rich one. Ready? Tonight, make a list of 3 things for which you are thankful. It can be as simple as AC in the summertime, a car that runs, a beautiful wife. Make that list of 3 things tonight. Practice contentment. This may seem like an hard thing to say, practice contentment, but every day we are given dozens of ways in which we can practice contentment. One of my favorite speakers, Tony Robbins, challenges people to go 21 days without thinking a single negative thought. Each time you think a negative thought, you have to reset the counter. Now, for some of us, we can barely make it to lunchtime any given day, but for others, we realize we could go a full month or even a full season without thinking a negative thought. This challenge is a broad, general way to practice contentment. And practicing contentment is one of the best ways you can change from a poor mindset to a rich mindset, regardless of your income. The third way you can change your mind is by resolving to add value to others. It is rare to see someone who adds value to people expecting nothing in return. Be a person who adds value, and you will most certainly be rich. Rich people control their money, rich people budget. You need to give consistently so you're reminded where your money comes from. You need to give so you're reminded that there are people and causes other than yourself that are important. I've heard some people give away 60% of their earnings. Can you imagine? These people are not only generous, they are full of life and full of happiness, joy, and contentment. They have learned that the secret to living is giving. 1, rich men have a 401k, retirement plan, life insurance, or trust. I call any of these for an investment. I will not give you any advice on 401ks or retirement plans. That is not my specialty, but I will tell you, you must have a consistent investment saving for retirement plan. 2, rich men own land, rentals, or other properties. 3, rich people save consistently by utilizing the concept of delayed gratification. Rather than buying something the first time they wanted to see it, rich men wait for the right time to purchase. One of the most stark differences between rich men and poor men is their level of debt. Chances are, if you're reading this, you have some debt. Either you owe on credit cards, student loans, hospital bills, a car, a house, a business. If you're not in debt, I commend you. Stay that way and move on to the next section. If you are in debt, keep reading. I know this seems silly because it's so basic, but you would be amazed how many people don't know all of their debts. Pay off the smallest debt first. The lessons in short: try to get loans at no interest. Don't be in debt to friends or family for very long. Set a deadline for paying off each debt. Use every resource available to make your payments and make additional payments. Then celebrate when you pay off any debt in full.